recording. Okay. Okay, excellent. Let's see who's there. Good morning. Good morning. We're holding by Boy Mine Rav Shizbi Meiraba on 51b. Nun Aleph Amud Beis. It's in the middle of the page if you have a traditional Gemara. Rav Shizbi asked Rabba. Hey, thank Hashem. Now we're able to learn Torah every day. It's because of our learning Shav Beis Hamikdash immediately. Okay. So, Boy Mine Rav Shizbi made Rabba. Rav Shizbi asked Rabba the following question. Keep them out. Let's say, talking about a pit, talking about discussion. Well, it's always a discussion about between Rav and Shmuel about what's the reason why a person would be responsible for paying for the damages to an ox in a pit. According to Rav, it was the bad ear called Hevel. According to Shmuel, it's the impact. So we asked like this. He says, let's say someone widens the pit. So now the pit was already dug 10 tvachim. Someone goes inside the pit and starts widening it. Amalei, so Rabba responds to Shizbi, why? What are you asking? If the second person should be chayav, he should be for sure pater. Harei tavla. He made less bad air in there because he made more ventilation. So he's making it more livable in there. He's not causing more damage. He's causing less damage. Amalei. So Rav Shizbi responds. He says, "That's not what I'm talking about. Other Rabba, harikir v'zeka." But he made it closer for the yaks to fall in. Because when he widened it, moved it over closer to the street. Ravashi says, let's take a look. Let's see. If he died from the bad air, the second guy should be pater because he widened it, he decreased the bad air by making it more ventilated. But if he died from the impact, well, he was the one that made it closer to him, made less air, and made more ventilation, but ventilation wasn't our issue here. Our issue was the impact, and he caused it to fall in. Ikadamri, others say this slightly different. Ravashi says, let's take a look. If he fell from the side that this person widened it to, as he extended it over a few feet or something towards one side, then Harikir Vezeki is the one that caused him to fall in. But if he fell from the other side, so he didn't even touch that side, so Remi Tavla, on the contrary, he made the Hevel less. Itmar. Now we have a statement. You have a pit that's exactly as deep as it is wide. A box. A parallelogram. So Rabba v'Rab Yosef Damri Tavayim Mishmei de Rabba Bar Bachana. Damar Mishmei de Rabmani. Rabba and Rab Yosef, they discuss this. It's exactly as deep as it is wide. And they say in the name of Rabba Bar Bachana, that says the name of Ravmani. Chadamar, one of them said, either Rabba or Rab Yosef, says, Le'olam yesh behevel ad she'irach b'yesh miyamka. Unless it's wider than deep, then there's the dangerous air down there. It has to be wider than deep. What if it's exactly equal? Then there's the bad air. It has to be wider than deep to be pater, to be not bad air. Okay. Chadamar, the other one says, we always say that there is the bad air until it's deeper. There's no bad air unless it's deeper than wide. But if it's equal, then there's no bad air. It's not deeper than wide. There's no bad air. So the difference between them, they're saying the same thing, that it needs to be deeper than wide in order for there to be bad air.
It's like when they find matbeos, it's a lot in a small place, or
yeah, but the way each one is saying it, one's saying it in a positive way, one's saying it in a negative way. The difference comes out when it's equal. The one that's saying it in the positive way, so which is the first opinion, there's always, well, this is the negative because it's there's always bad ear until it's wider than deep. That means when it's equal, there's bad ear. Other one says there's never bad ear until it's deeper than. There's never bad ear until it's deeper than wide. Then when it's equal, then there's no bad ear because it's not deeper than wide. So it comes out like the okay. Overall, of Rishon v'lekiso. The Mishnah said that if the first person went by the pit, was this the Mishnah or Brisa? Yeah, Mishnah. The first there's a pit that belongs to partners. First person goes by and he doesn't cover it, but the second person went by and doesn't cover it. Second person, and then something falls in. The second person's going to be obligated, not the first person. Now, really, both of them should be obligated to make sure that if they're each responsible for this pit, then they should be splitting it. So we have to figure out what's going on over here. Rishon me'emas miftar. How did the first person become pater? At what point does he become pater? The Gemara understands that the first person was using the pit, not just walking by, and then he hands it over to the second person to use. When the second person's using it, it's like as if he's making him into a shomer. But at which point is the transition from the first person to the second person? So Rabba Rabbi Yosef Damri Tavai Mishmei Rabba Barbachana Damar Mishmei Rabmani. It's interesting. They must have been learning this all together. Rabba and Rabbi Yosef are discussing. They each say in the name of Rabba Barbachana, in the name of Rabmani, Chanama Mishminicha Mishtamish. One of them says, when he sees the other person is using it, when he leaves him using the pit, the second person is using the water. As he's using the water, he's putting the bucket in and taking out the water. So then the first person is exempt. Another one says when he gives him the cover. I thought Dahlia was the bucket, but apparently it's the cover. When he gives him the cover, he has to hand him the cover and say, okay, now it's your job to cover it. Much more direct. Giving over the responsibility that you're now in charge. The second opinion, Chadamar, right? So the Gemara says, Kitanai, this is based on a lamda shemachlekes. It's not just this technical thing. This goes back with some really deep logic that goes into this. Hamad l'mayim in a bar, someone is drawing water from a pit. His friend comes. Says, leave it now. I'm going to be taking water. I'm good. Once he leaves the second person using the water, so Pater, the first person is exempt. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov says, no, he has to give him the cover. Exactly like those two opinions. What's the background to this? What's the machlekes? Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov savar yesh breira. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov says that when two people own something, so when one person is using it, two partners, when one person is using it, he's using his own, exactly the part of it that he owns.
So what's breira?
Breira means that breira is usually like a retroactive division of that. You know, when we bought this pit together, so this side of the pit is mine, this side is yours. Whenever I take water, I'm actually taking the original water that was always mine.
My choice.
That was always my water that I'm taking. And it's not that we're dividing it up because we're just allowed to the rights to both of it. Not ein breira would mean that we each have this mixture and we each can take and we have the rights to both of it. And breira means that whenever I take, I'm always taking what was originally mine. How do we figure that out? Well, after you take it, we figure out that was always yours. So Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov says that when the first person was taking from the well, he was taking from his side of the well. Second person is taking from It's a pit. Second person's taken from the pit. He was taken from his side of the pit. So therefore, when he leaves the other person to take, he never handed him over anything.
Therefore, he didn't give over.
So he didn't give over the responsibility unless he gives him the cover. So Rabbanan Savri, the Rabbanan hold Ein Breira. The Rabbanan hold Ein Breira. That it was always a mixture. He was taken from the whole pit. And when he lets the second person take, the second person is taken from the whole pit. Just leaving him to take means that he gave him over, that you're now responsible to watch this. My kamiflagi. Sorry, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Amar Ravina. Ravina says, and they're actually following another machlekes. The Tanan, we had a discussion in the Darim. Hashutrim shenadru hana zemizeh. If partners say, I don't want to have anything to do with you, I take a vow that I'm not having any benefits from you. Problem is, they own this property together. So, asurim likanis l'chater. Neither of them can go into that property, because when you go into the property, you're having benefits from your friend because he's a partner in the property. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, no, you're not even entering into your friend's property. Every part that you're stepping into is always your property. Retroactively, we know that that's considered your area. From the very original, when you divide it up, we didn't make a line that your red and your blue teams, but whenever you walk there, that was considered, that was your area. That was from the original.
If you walked on a full amount,
so
would that hold it in basement?
So at this time, it like shifts over the.
Whatever he's not walking on is not
his.
Someone wasn't the partners on your side.
Yeah, but they own the whole pit together. Now you're asking, according to the Yesh Breira,
right?
According to the one that Yesh Breira, then there's actually an imaginary line going through it, but it's not really true. There's no imaginary line that's breaking it up. It's a retroactive determination of that the water that you took was always yours. It's as if, but it's not really there. Yeah.
So is the Gemara using this discussion of the ownership of the water to try to determine who's responsible for an injury caused by falling or smelling? Is that what's going on?
It's the ownership of the water is going to determine when he lets the second person take, if he handed over everything that he was doing to the other person.
But that would then shift the responsibility, the liability.
Right.
From number one to number two.
Right. Right. Okay. If they're separate, if there's Breira, then just handing over the rights, handing him, just giving him the ability to now take water doesn't mean that he's giving over the liability. Okay. But if they own it both together, everything is mixed. The Ein Breira, then when he says, okay, now it's your turn, so then he's actually handing him over the liability as well, the responsibility. That we learned yesterday.
It was double.
That it makes it worse. Now, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Savar, he says, Yesh Breira, highly the nafshei ayil, highly nafshei ayil. No, did I speak again? Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says that each one enters into his own property. But what's the machlekes? The Gemara tells us the logic here. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Savar Yesh Breira, when he says that there's retroactive determination of whose it is, the hide the nafshei, each one is going into his own property. Rabbanan Savri and Breira. Okay. Rabbanan say that no, the whole thing is one big mixture. It's one big chalent. The who owns what? Should be a good thing. In the chalent, can you really tell the difference between the potatoes and the beans and this? No, it's all Ein Breira. It's all one. Depends on how you make it. I'm Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, This is Rabbi Elazar ben Das. This is a Namayra. Hamaycher bar l'chaveirei. Someone sells a pit to his friend. Once he gives him the cover, he acquires the pit. Says, I'm selling you the pit, and here's the cover. The guy takes the cover. Okay, the pit says, what are we talking about? Ibekaspa, did the guy purchase it with money? So once he hands over money, we know the rule that property as a realty is acquired with money. Can't lift it up, can't, right? Kesef, star, and chazaka. This property. Could have made a document also. But money, the transfer of money is already acquires the property. So what are you telling me this thing about the cover of the pit? Iba chazaka, if he's going to acquire it by doing something showing ownership to the pit, liknei b'chazaka, so go use it. He acquires it with chazaka. What does he need to hand him the cover? Umar says, leilam b'chazaka. Really, he's acquiring with chazaka. But there is a statement when you do acquire a property with chazaka, which means showing ownership. The original owner has to tell the purchaser, he has to say, go and show ownership, go and use it, go and acquire it, go and make a chazaka. But over here, given shemasale dalia, because he gave him the cover, it's as if he said, go and show ownership. So it's like,
What are the chazaka could a person do with it anyway?
He can take a swim, he could take water out, he could show usage of it. Yeah, when you acquire a property, to show chazaka would mean you change the locks, you close the gates, you fix the fence, you do something to show. And the pit, he's going to walk around it, he's going to,
In England, the custom was just to pick up a clod of dirt and throw it in the air.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was how they showed ownership.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Do they still do that? No, you can get sued.
Depends what gender the dirt is.
Yeah. Okay. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. We have some more examples of the same thing. Someone says sells a house to his friend. So once he hands him the keys, he's kind of so what's going on? Are we talking about that he purchased it with money? So when he got the money, he already acquired it. Why does he have to hand him the keys? If it's showing ownership, let him go inside and lay down. Let him show some ownership. Really, it's chazaka. But the original owner has to say, go and make a chazaka and acquire. Once he hands him the keys, it's as if he said, go and acquire it. So he doesn't have to make the statement now. The keys, handing him the keys is as if he said that. We have another example of this. We had a Rabbi Elazar, we had Rabbi Shua ben Levi, and now we have Rish Lakish. The name of Rabbi Yana. If someone sells a flock to his friend, once he gives him over the mashchuchas, which is going to be the leader of the flock, we'll see in a moment. So then he's kind of, hey chidami, what's the case? Even mashicha, if we're talking about that he's going to acquire it with mashicha, with pulling it, like in mashicha. Now, some animals, you don't really pull them, you hit them with the stick and they go, that's considered mashicha. So let them just move them, right? Ibn Masira, if it's giving over the reins, like the Masira, you just hand over the string that's attached to the animal. So that would be in a Rosh Hashanah as opposed to Mashicha, which would be on the side of the Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says, really, we're talking about where he just has to make it go. But he has to say to him, he has to tell him, go make it go and acquire it. The same story. Since he gives him over this mashchuchas, which is the leader, then it's as if he said to go make it go. My mashchuchas, what does it mean, mashchuchas? Karkashta. Interesting. The karkashta with a chaf means the hind part of the animal. This is a karkashta with a kuf, means a bell. It's a certain bell that makes the animal go. You ring the bell and it goes. Rabbi Yaakov Amar, Rabbi Yaakov says, Iza the Ozla B'Reish Adra. It's a goat that goes in the front of all the other goats. It's like a leader goat. They have like these dogs. The dogs, the leader, no, the dogs just run around and
So
make sure that
the
everyone
front
stays
one
in.
has the bell.
Uh,
Oh,
Most of those dogs, they have the shepherd in the name.
Oh yeah.
Like Australian shepherd, German shepherd,
Uh-huh.
Belgian shepherd.
Uh-huh.
That is the name of shepherd.
Kedadara Shahu Galila Allah de Rav Chizda. This Galilean taught in front of Rav Chizda, said Kadragas Raya al Ana. When the master, the shepherd, gets angry at his flock, Ovid Lenagda Samusa, he puts the blind goat as the leader. And then what happens is it like falls off the cliff and everyone else falls off the cliff. Now this is an example. Now the way the way the Rashi puts it, he says this is how the Eibishter punishes the enemies of the Jews. He gives them leaders that are not proper, and then the leader just destroys the people. Now I hope Rashi is not saying this euphemistically, because sometimes Saini Yisrael is said we don't want to spell it out, but then
Spells it out.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So in the Quran he spells it out that he makes the leaders of the Jews blind. Blind means not literally blind, figuratively blind. They don't know what to do.
Follow after. That's a reference to Sunni Israel. That's a reference to the
That's why
haters of Jews.
we shouldn't put all the blame on the leaders, because it's when Hashem is angry at the flock, he appoints the leaders. It's the flock that it's us that have to do tshuva. We like to blame everyone else, but that's not the idea.
That sounds better.
Try to put it the second thing.
The land of the blind.
Yeah.
The land of the blind.
One-eyed.
Right.
In this case, the land, the leader of the blind. Leader of the blind. A blind leader, and the people have to be blind to follow.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a new Mishnah now. Kiso Arishain, the first person covered the pit. He was responsible. However, his second person, the other partner, comes. Somehow, we're going to see later that there was like termites in the wood and it fell through. But the second person comes, he sees that it's not covered. Like you saw, and he doesn't cover it. So the rule is Hasheni Chayev. First person took care of his responsibility. The second person is Chayev. Mishnah goes on. Kiso Karayu. It was covered properly. And falls in an ox or a donkey and dies. He's pater. He's exempt. We always learned that if someone digs a pit, he has to cover it. He did what he was supposed to. If for whatever reason it's damage still happens, he's exempt because he took care of his responsibility. Like he saw if he doesn't cover it properly, that's the whole sugi of bar. If he wasn't responsible, so then an ox or a donkey falls in, he's going to be responsible. Gonna have a machlekes in the Gemara. What exactly is going on here? Well, let's just say like this, that there's someone in the pit that's doing work on the pit. It's not the guy that dug the pit. There's another guy in the pit that's doing some work. He went in the pit, he starts chiseling away, banging. Now, sometimes an animal, he hears a banging sound and he gets frightened. So what happened over here is that the animal was walking by the pit. He hears a bang, he gets frightened, he jumps and he falls in the pit. So if he falls forward into the pit, this is one opinion. If he falls forward into the pit, so then he's chayav. If he falls backwards into the pit, and he's going to be pater. Now, this, according to Rav, this makes perfect sense the way that we're explaining it, because when you fall forward, then you have the bad ear. You fall backwards, upside down, so the head is facing up. So then, what do you mean the bad ear? It fell on his Yeah, this behind. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about the guy that was
Yeah, that's what I
chiseling.
was waiting for the next one.
I don't know.
Splattered ever.
Unless the pit was wider than the depth.
Right. Well, no, it still could be deep. He was on a ladder, you know. He was hanging on the rope chiseling, and this thing fell right on the side. An ox and its utensils fell in, and the utensils broke. A donkey and its utensils fell in, and they tore. Now there's different types of utensils. So the ox would have on it the yoke. The donkey would have on it some sort of load. So the donkey's load tears, the ox's yoke breaks. That's why there's different expressions here. So the rule is going to be chayav ala behema pater ala kelim. He's responsible. The owner of the pit is responsible only for the animal, but not for the utensils. We have a special pasuk that we learned. It says v'nafal aseichai v'nafal shama sharei chamar, falls into it an ox or a donkey, and the Gemara tells us shar v'lei adam chamar v'lei kelim. You're only responsible for the ox and the donkey, but not for other things. Nafal aseichai shar chira sheita b'katan. We have to see why this is significant. If the ox that is a chira sheita b'katan.
Ox.
I think so. It means an ox that is deaf, imbecile, and young is going to be chayav. Sounds like if it's not,
Sure? Okay.
you want to say it's owned by a chayr shayt v'katan, that the person that owns it is a chayr shayt v'katan.
Kamma, cheresh, kamma, shayte, kamma, cotton.
Because I happen to know that shar v'lei adam, that if the person falls in, it's going to be
Why? But it's a cotton.
right. Is it in the commentary? Does it say it's a young ox or it's owned by a young by a?
It has not been yet trained to plow a young.
It's a young ox. Yeah, it's a young ox. It's the shar that is a chereshet. Those are adjectives for the ox. Yeah.
We'll make a good witness nowadays.
She's crazy.
Right. Ben a bas eved ayama is pater.
So I'm not teaching.
But if it's a child, there needs a little commentary here. If it's a child or a son or a daughter or a slave girl, then it's going to be exempt because it doesn't matter. We said sharvale adam, any sort of person, any type of person, no matter what, is always going to be exempt. The owner of the pit is always going to be exempt. Okay, the Mishnah started off saying, yeah. Yeah, we'll see in the Gemara.
That makes sense.
We'll see in the Gemara. It's actually, we're going to see that when we say an ox that falls into the pit, turns out that if an ox falls into a pit, you're actually exempt because the ox should have seen where it was going. In a regular case by day.
Blind person.
And a blind ox, you would be chayav. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, now we go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. So the Gemara explains the beginning of the Mishnah. It says the first person covered it. Rishon ademas miftar. So 1 second. The first person covered it. The second person didn't cover it. Not because he used it, he just walked by and he saw that it fell through. At what point does the obligation come back on the first person because they're partners in this? When does he now? When he left it, it was covered. But when? At what point should he be responsible? Let's say the second person never walked by. Are they always going to be exempt? Like how long does this go on? So, Rav Amar Rav b'chdei sheyeda, enough time that he should have found out that it had that the cover had fallen through. Shmuel says enough time that they notify him, that they would notify him.
It's open.
Okay, now there's different ways of learning this. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, he has much more time than that. He has enough time that he can not only be notified that his pit's open, but also enough time to be able to hire workers to cut the wood to be able to make a new cover for it. Now the second guy, Rashi says, he doesn't have all that amount of time, even though he sees that it's uncovered, because he has to hire a watchman to watch the pit while he goes and does that. It's the other guy that's not standing there, that he has that extra time to go to make sure that to go to build the cover. Okay. Covers it properly, and it falls into it an ox or a donkey. Gemara asks, even the chisar karoi, how did anything fall in? He's going to be exempt because he took responsibility. He did everything he was supposed to. But how did something fall in if he covered it? Amar Rab Yitzchak bar Bar Chana. Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Usually it's Rabba bar Bar Chana. Rab Yitzchak bar Bar Chana says that it became. How do they translate that? It sounds like there were worms inside, and which would probably be like termites, and they ate the wood, and it got weak and it fell through.
There's probably enough kamina if it was a cover or a guard. Because a guard either complete or the animal ran past them and fell in. But if there was an actual cover, that would have stopped them. That's the
Nakamina.
when you just said, how could it fall in if there was a cover?
Oh, okay.
So you have to either say that the cover was, it's falling apart. That's how it fell in.
I guess.
Oh.
It's probably referring to termites.
Right. It was termite. Yeah, we used to get these books from the PJ library, the PJ library. They send, if you have little kids, they send you books. Anyway, we stopped because the books weren't religious. But one of them had a Noah's Ark, and all the animals were arguing, don't let the termites on, don't let the It was very cute. But anyway, my wife didn't approve of it because it's not like a medrash or something, we don't want the kids thinking that's the story of the Noah's Ark. Anyway, okay.
This wood that's exempt. Make
Oh,
the
yeah.
right kind of wood.
What type of wood is that?
They completely old pine. It doesn't.
Oh, yeah?
Like older homes, they have that. Like
We use that wood.
they used to
Okay.
use like real good wood. It's so hard to determine to go to another house.
Wow. The Gemara has a question. Okay, the next page of Gemara is going to be discussing this type of scenario. It's going to this way, that way, but it's the same thing. What's happening is he's covering it with a board that's strong enough to hold oxen, but it's not strong enough to hold camels. Did I tell you, when I was in Coral Springs for Shabbos, so they have like a little library there. Anyway, I found a book, interesting, I opened it up, and there was this little footnote that said that one of the Bible critics, they have a problem with the Torah because it says that Avraham sent Yitzchak, Eliezer, we sent him with camels. They don't have a record of camels in the Middle East at that time. So it's a problem. It must have been written. Camels were only introduced later, and so it must mean that the Torah was written later, and they didn't know that there were no record of camels. Anyway, he says that the archaeologists found that camels were actually very expensive back then. There were camels, but just the fact that they don't have records means that it wasn't so common. It would be like today saying that we searched all the in 1,000 years we searched all the cars and we have no record of Rolls Royce. Why? Because it's not so common. Only the rich have the Rolls Royce. So they said we don't have record of camels, but the fact that he sent camels is actually a proof that he was showing that he was rich and he sent all the diet. It's exactly the opposite. It proves exactly the opposite. Anyway, so
I guarantee you Naftali Lowenstein read that book.
I don't remember the name. It was on the bottom shelf in the back of the line.
So Naftali, what was the name of that bottom shelf book?
So this guy puts a cover on that's able to withstand oxen. That was probably be the common animal that back then. but the camels, won't stand the camel. The camel is is a heavier animal. Vasu Gemalim, turns out with his mazel, camels came by. Veru, they didn't fall in, but they weakened it. And then oxen came and fell in. Well, what's going to be the din? Was the person responsible or was he irresponsible? Amri, they said like this, hey Chidami, what's the story? We need more information. It's like a bridge that can only have cars, but not trucks. So is it common for camels to walk by? Then the person is absolutely negligent. And if it's not common for camels over there, so honestly, then it's an accident. You never saw camels coming this way. So like stricha, it's necessary. When would this case apply? This question be applicable? Every once in a while, camels come around. Do we say that it's considered negligent? You should have realized that once in a while camels come around. Maybe but or do we say that right now there's no camels? He was covering it for right now. He looked around. There's no camels around, so he should be fine. So honestly, it turns out camels came by. It's an accident. It's an unpreventable circumstance. So Tashima, come and listen. We're going to try to answer this question. He covered it properly, and it's a quote from the Mishnah. But nevertheless, an ox or a donkey fell in, he's exempt. Echidami, what's the case? If we say that it was covered it properly, that means it could withstand oxen, it could withstand camels. So how did it fall in? Elalav must be that it was able to withstand oxen, but not camels. The word camel is the same in English and in Hebrew. Camel, same thing. So it could only withstand, it could only hold up oxen. Now, if it's common for there to be camels there, amai pater. Why should he be exempt? Who is negligent? And if it's not common for there to be camels there, pshita. Honestly, never comes around. It's like if someone builds a bridge that can't withstand elephants. Okay, there's no elephants here. It's not a problem. Elalav dasian leprakim. It turns out that in this place there comes every once in a while these camels. And then the camels came by and they weakened it. And then the oxen came and fell in. Ukatani pater, and it says pater. Now we were thinking that why should he be pater? If we were thinking that if he covers it properly and animals fell in anyway, he's pater. What could the case be? It must be that the camels walked on it and they weakened it, and now it fell in and it says pater. So now we have an answer to our question. Al makiven dahash deleka, since right at that point there were no camels there. Anasu, it's an unpreventable circumstance, and that's why he's pater. Gemara says no. Your whole proof was just because you were looking for a scenario of how it fell in. You put up a proper covering. There was nothing wrong with the covering. He said, how did it fall in? It had termites. Termites came and they ate the whole thing. Okay, Tashima, let's try to bring another proof. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to do the same thing again. Then do the same thing again. Do the same thing, and that's basically this Gemara.
It's interesting that the Gemara finally used the word poshea. Finally, because this whole chapter so far, this whole parak, you could look at it just a discussion of examples of when someone is poshea.
Right.
That's what this parak is.
Right. It's the responsibility to pay comes from the negligence of the person not guarding his, not taking the precautions. Tashima, come and listen. Like you said, if he doesn't cover it properly, and an ox or a donkey falls in, he's chayiv hechidami. What's the case? What do you mean he didn't cover it properly? If you say that it wasn't proper for oxen or for camels, it means we put a piece of paper over it. Pshita, Of course, he's going to be chayiv. You have to tell me it's chayiv if he didn't put up something that could withstand the weight of an ox. It must be. It's telling me a chiddush that really it could withstand the weight of oxen, but it can't withstand the weight of camels. Say, hey, chidami, what's the case? If it's common for there to be camels at Peshehu, so he's negligent because they're going to walk on it. And if there's no camels there, then it's understood. It's unpreventable circumstance. It should be exempt. It must be that camels come around sometimes. And they came around and they weakened it. And then the oxen came, they walked on it. We see that he's chayiv. Alma, you see from this, we see that since every once in a while camels come around, you're considered negligent because you should have realized that camels are going to walk on it to weaken it.
One camel goes over and then another camel goes over. Would it be different if the next time the ox comes over and goes over?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out.
They should do it a certain amount of time, no matter what it'll be.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Maybe it's strong enough after the time it's walking past it.
Right.
So I think what he's saying is that isn't the proof on the fact 1 camel, 2 camel, 10 camel. 30 camels on fine, nothing ever happened. So it's all like, so in other words, how can you call it it's proven to succeed, not because of the camels that weakened.
Shalom's asking, like, if I understand correctly, similar to the bench. When there's one person sat down, it was fine. Another person sat down, it was fine. The 10th person sat down and it broke. So, what did we say over there? That the last person was chayav?
I remember that one person was leaning on.
Oh, because the other guys couldn't get up. That was over there. We said everyone. No, we said only the last person was chayav because he wasn't allowing the other people to stand up.
Bench that I have to fix before the last guy fell.
Yeah.
How would you know that the 9th person week?
Yeah. Okay, I don't know. I don't know.
He's asking.
I don't know. Let's go further. It could withstand. Really, what's happening here? The Bach adjusts everything, but it's too complicated to read. Really, it could withstand oxen and not camels. And camels are common. With the kakashlach peshehu, you said that's peshehu. He's negligent. There's camels come around. Says, don't worry about that. You're looking for a chiddush in every part of the Mishnah. You're not going to get that. The chiddush wasn't one part of the Mishnah. The other part of the Mishnah was to keep it symmetrical. That we should, to keep it parallel examples. Ikadarme, some say like this. And that wasn't our question. If camels come around every once in a while, then for sure he's negligent. You have to know. Sometimes camels come around. Sometimes trucks drive on this bridge. When do we have a question? The question was different. We shift the whole story. What happened was, this could withstand oxen, but it can't withstand camels. And camels come around. So we know that he's negligent. But it turns out that no camels walked on it. What actually happened were termites went in it. So do we say that since he was negligent regarding camels, so we say that it's not considered a cover at all, and now when termites fall on it, if termites eat it up, it's his responsibility? Or do we say that termites, how is he supposed to stop termites? What is he supposed to do? So do we say that since he was negligent regarding the camels, so we consider him negligent regarding everything? Or do we say, we don't say that. If camels would have walked on it, we say he was negligent, but that's not what happened. Tasha must have come and listen. We're going to do the same thing again.
Because I didn't hear the answer to Shalom.
I don't have an answer.
Is the last person responsible, like the bench thing?
I don't remember what happened there.
Anybody else?
Hillel probably remembers. It was in Baba Kamma. It's around Daf Yomi.
I'm just saying, because when the brothers sold Yosef, then he went through multiple sales. They were still responsible for the sale, and say in the end, blame it on the last one.
He covers it properly, and it falls into it. An ox or a donkey is exempt. Bit Marlana was said in the summer of Yitzchak Bar Chana, Rabbi Bar Chana explained that it got termites. Hey Chidami, what's this scenario? We said he covered it properly. Is it properly for oxen and for camels? And got termites. Pshita the pot. Of course he's going to be potter. What are you supposed to do? He doesn't know what's going on underneath the thing. He did what he was supposed to do. Must be. Mishnah is telling me a chiddush. It was proper for oxen, but it could not withstand camels. And there's also camels there. But what happened was camels didn't walk on it. The termites came. And it says pater alma. Obviously, you don't say migu. That's migu over here means. Since you're negligent for this, so we consider you negligent for everything. We say that he's exempt. Where it says actually, it could withstand everything. And it got termites. Your question, am I having to remember that it's so obvious that he's going to be potter? What was he supposed to do? Maybe he was supposed to go and bang on it every day to see if there's termites. I guess you could be able to tell if it's going to sound hollow. Kamash Malan, that we don't make him responsible to do that. Tashma, like you said, if you didn't cover it properly, we're going to do the same thing again. If you didn't cover it properly and an ox or a donkey fall in and dies, chayiv, so he's responsible. What's the case? If we say that it wasn't properly for anything, not oxen, not camels, you have to say that he's chayiv. Of course he's going to be chayiv. It must be that it was proper for oxen, but not strong enough to handle camels. If camels are regular, then it's pesheu. If it's not common, so then it's unpreventable circumstance. And no one knew that camels were going to all of a sudden show up. Must be that camels do come, but the camels didn't walk on it. It got termites. And it says that it's chayav alma. Must be that since he was negligent regarding the camels, so he's considered negligent regarding even if other things happen, not the camels. Amri, they say we're talking about that it was proper for oxen and not proper for camels. And camels do come, and the camels made it weaker. And then the oxen fell in. You said that that's obvious. Well, I did not have Reisha Kisah, Krenasov Sefer Nami like Kisah. So that we don't have a chiddush of the Sefer, it's just being symmetrical. Tashema, come and listen. If you fell into it, an ox that was deaf, a deaf mute, ox that was a deaf mute, I don't know how it's mute, but it doesn't go bad, and I don't know what it does instead. Yeah. A little baby ox, I don't know, suma, a blind ox, mahalach balayla, or it was walking by night, he's going to be chayiv. Pikeach mahalach bayayim, but if it was a smart ox and it was walking by day, pater. Since he was a pesheya, he was negligent regarding someone that was a blind person and regarding someone that was a deaf mute. So, right, just like we said, if you're pesheya, if you're negligent for a camel, then you're automatically negligent for the ox. So you should be considered negligent. We don't say that. We don't say migu that since you're negligent regarding this animal, then you're negligent regarding. For this animal, you're going to be chayav. For that animal, you're going to be pater. Shmamina, you see that we don't say migu. Migai. No, I said migu. He says migai. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Yeah. Considering that it talks about termites, maybe we should reconsider PJ1.
That's why
I also stopped it. I used to give it to my grandchildren, but they make up their own stories. Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, it came out, it was very cute. But then I give them away. When they
have to be restrictive on.
It's very good.
You have to censor it.
It's very good for people who otherwise are unaffiliated. At least their kids are getting something.
They're reading.
Yeah, and but the destroys. That didn't happen at all.
The only one, we kept one. It was about this old lady that made latkes, and the rabbi would come over to eat. But instead of the rabbi coming over, this beer came over. But the old lady was blind, and the beer ate all the latkes up. And then the rabbi came over.
Story.
Anyway. Good morning,
Yeah, let me
General.
turn off the.
Thank you.
Have a good day.